So I'm standing there with my cameraman and we're shooting Sanjay Dutt. And he's passing me by, and even now if you see the shot, he's looking at me and he's saying, Geeta, what are you doing? And he's saying to the driver, take care of her. She's going to fall down. And I started laughing. I was telling the driver that he's just come out after so many years, literally 1.5 years, and he's more bothered about me.
This is the first time that I'm telling this story.
Hello there, and welcome to Whips and Chains.
An individual can be sold innumerable times.
What are the whips that we flog ourselves with often?
I discovered cancer, I had breast cancer.
And what are the chains that bind us down?
फिर मैंने YouTube पे देखा कि फीमेल फिटिसाइड होता कैसे है.
Is something I want to explore in my show.
They're orphans.
It's okay. It's okay.
गर्दन निकलती है, बाकी हिस्सा ऐसे ऐसे करके निकलता है. यार इतना बड़ा पाप होता अपने गांव में.
It's horrific.
Somebody passed me by and hit my bum.
He did have a personality disorder.
कई बार मैं सो ही नहीं सका.
All the traffickers that I've seen, they are common people like you and me.
She said, Kanda tu dein, vada putar tu.
If you talk about human trafficking, it's $1 billion business.
There was a lot of violence, a lot of aggression.
बड़े बड़े पुल बना दोगे, उनसे ह्यूमैनिटी तो नहीं बनने वाली.
And welcome to Whips and Chains. Hello there, and welcome again to Whips and Chains, the show where we have some difficult conversations that usually people don't like to have. And the reason I always get people who can own their truth is because I think that's the only way that society and people who are quiet up until now will be able to validate their experience and come up and really claim their power. So my guest today, Geeta Datta, has been a journalist with me and even before me, right from the mid-90s, at the time of liberalization. The world was opening up, satellite TV was on a boom, and I was a young researcher, and she was already a correspondent with a TV company. And a lot of things I learned from her and with her, and she has really seen the life and times of journalism moving from what it was then, a very aspirational profession for a lot of youngsters, to what it is now. So among all the other things that we are going to talk about, I also want to speak to her about what it is to evolve as a woman in the media and everything else that it involves. So, hi Geeta, and I'm so happy to have you with me finally on my show. So I'm like feeling a little heady and giddy about it. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for calling me, Niveta. I mean, the fact that I'm doing it with you and it's so comfortable and it's just lovely. Who would have thought when we were doing television with beta times that we'd be now doing a podcast, which is going to be, which is on camera.
Yeah.
Things have evolved.
Henna?
And we've all grown up together and we've adapted to new technology. And
Yes.
I think that has been one of the greatest joys for me personally, because I love technology.
Yes.
And we have come from a background where we started and did only television.
Right.
And I think
Now
it's been an
there's so
easy
many,
role,
yeah.
because I think the content stays the same in some sense. I mean, the ethics of it and everything. But technology, you just pick up. You know, it's just a matter of adapting. And I think that's the thrill of it.
And you have definitely been someone who has moved with the times, right? And from what I remember of you, like if I was to go back to first impressions then and now, is always a person who was willing to learn, willing to adapt, be like a perennial beginner, isn't it? Isn't that something that you hold very dear?
That is me. I love it. I mean, for me, let's say a full moon night is not the same as the last full moon night,
Right.
and you've seen so many now with
Yeah.
the number of years you've been alive. But so I loved technology. I think when I started, before you did,
Yeah.
we started technology, it was that was called high band and
Right,
pneumatic,
right.
where you had the record. I mean, there was a cameraman, there was a guy who would hold the recorder in which the tape was put in to record.
Sound
then
recordist,
and then there would be
assistant.
another person who was holding the sound. So
Yeah.
we were 3-person team, and we were connected with wires because I was
Yeah.
holding the mic, so that had a
Yeah.
wire,
Yeah.
and the recorder had a wire between the
Yeah.
cameraman and the recorder. And yeah, so we were all wired up.
Literally
wired up.
Yeah,
And,
there was no
So I
wireless.
started from there, and
Yeah.
currently I'm working on a platform that is an OTT platform.
Yeah,
And I'm
right.
sitting here on a podcast. and
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
all looking at podcasts.
And
so-
and I remember that our boss Madhu.
Yeah.
Remember when the internet first came, and she was telling us about www and World Wide Web. Remember, and we thought, "Ye kya hai ye
You know, I
cheez?"
have to tell you this before this. So when I joined as a researcher because obviously, I mean,
Yeah,
there was
right.
there were no
You did.
courses.
There
I
were
don't
nothing.
think there was a journalism,
No.
television journalism course didn't exist, and I think that was the best thing for me because I
For
landed
all
up,
of us, I
all
think.
of us actually, and
All of
I
us.
landed up doing a scholarship after X
Yeah.
number of years, so which was lovely. But when I joined, there was a room in which there was a computer. And that nobody entered in that room, and the computer was lying dead. And we had to physically type,
Yeah,
type, and
yeah.
I had blood coming out because
Yeah,
my
typing, yeah,
typing away.
right,
And then first you typed the entire script,
Yeah.
the entire interview.
Yeah.
Then the journalists who picked up X number of bytes, you typed those bytes.
Yeah.
Then you typed the final cut. Then
Yeah.
you typed the
Right.
script that was being sent for censors
Right.
approval. And then one day I was just sitting and I said, Madhu, there's this computer. She said, you know how to use it? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's, can you? Yeah. So for me, it was fantastic because I didn't have to type 50 times.
Yeah.
I typed once the entire
Thing. Yeah.
transcript. And then you just cut,
Cut,
copy.
paste, yeah.
Copy.
Yeah.
She thought I was this
Genius.
technology genius. And everything I said after that, when they said something about technology, and
Ask
she looked at me,
Geeta.
she was like, Geeta knows. And I was like, okay, great. So that became my, the biggest thing of, I think she probably confirmed me after that, saying that she's a bona fide person because I knew how to use a computer. So yeah.
But the other thing, G, that I felt about you is that you were a very girl's girl, like a woman's woman. You were very it was very important for you to be feminine and stylish and in tune with the latest of whatever the trends are. While that was front and center, but you were always one of the boys as well, right? So in that ecosystem, that's one thing about you that stood out, that while you owned your feminine side, you were also equally one of the boys and
Yeah.
hanging out and not sort of averse to, the late nights, the this and all the, thing that it involved. So how did that come about?
So, I have to tell you this. Ever since, from the time we were sort of growing up, my dad has I never have heard in my life that you can't do something because you're a woman. I was told that you can't do something because this would happen. Not because you're a woman, because this would happen. So we were given the pros and cons and told that, and explained, why he's saying no to us or saying yes to us, and never did the fact that you're a woman figure into it. And I was never stopped. My sister was never stopped from doing anything. And I've always been a tomboy. And I always was, coming from an army background, we were staying in cantonments. There's never in the army, at least not when we were there earlier also, there was always a group. You were a group of people. There were boys and girls in it together. And I mean, today I can talk about it because I can refer to something that all today's generation would know, which is Archie's, the film.
Yes.
That was our time. There was no, I mean, that is 60s, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about 70s, 80s. That
80s.
was exactly our time. We were cycling. We were staying in an army cantonment. There was no phones. There were no mobiles. There was no mobiles even when we started journalism, actually.
Yeah.
And so all of that. So we were literally that.
There
we
was
were
a
going
sense
to
of
the
connection.
club. We were going to the club. We were
Community.
dancing and community. And there was never a boy or a girl. I was a tomboy growing up right through my college. It's when I started third year, second year, I discovered Cosmopolitan, the foreign the magazine, and I started as a hostler. I used to get it. I sort of subscribed to it, and I used to get that. I started that late. And then when I started working, the first thing, my father had some money and he asked my sister, what do you want? She said, I want a house. So he bought her that. There was something in offer and he asked me, what did I want? And I said, I want a car. Because car for me was freedom. I didn't have to ever, because I'd never traveled in buses in hostel, earlier. And then college was hostel. So for me, that car was that freedom. If everywhere I went, I would insist on driving, and we went for parties together.
Yes,
because for me it was, I have a gadi, I can take and reach home, and I am not dependent on it. So that was one thing. Second, I was a tomboy. I was a sports person. I played cricket. I was selected to play for national. I played basketball. So I was a sports person, that kind of thing. And then I discovered that I was also a female.
Yeah.
And that happily has come together for me. And I'm still enjoying the fact I do crazy things like, I'm still
experiment with earrings,
hair,
with nails, all of that.
And all of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that takes away anything away from me in my head as a professional or as even age now today.
Yeah.
I mean, earlier I wasn't that old, but today I could be, I would be considered, but I don't let that stop me.
So
as long as I don't think I'm looking tacky in my head, I'm doing
you're
it.
fine.
Yeah.
So that is something I think, owning who you are in your essence, whether it is how you look, how you behave, what you stand for, what your values are, is I think something that all of us, we grew up at a time where it was a very strong part of our conditioning ki, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And then all of us have this choice that are we going to be that or are we going to be different?
Yeah.
So you, to my mind, were one of the first people from a slightly older generation than mine,
absolutely,
who took it in her hands to say, no, I decide. The bits that I want to take to absorb or to let go, I decide. Without being unnecessarily woke.
No.
Because, we were working at a time where there was blatant sexism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there was such a difference between the men and the women, even in terms of how the workspace and the work profiles were.
But Nivetha, can I just tell you, it's gone worse now.
Yeah. Really?
It is. It's so funny that there is so much of wokeism, and you speak to young people and they get horrified about so many things. But at certain levels, and again, I would say, because again, the seniors in television industry are still people of our age.
Yeah.
So you could call them remnants of our
past,
generation, who are continuing,
Right.
and therefore
Yeah.
applicable. What you're saying is applicable to them, but also amongst the younger lot. I mean, by younger, I mean, say late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
It's the same, and it hasn't changed that much. And what has happened is that there are certain things which have gone the other way around, where there was so much of fun we would have, the double meaning dialogues or fun. I'm not saying we weren't comfortable with everybody.
Yeah.
We had a group of
We had a
people
group we were very
and
comfortable.
we were comfortable with, and and there was a sense of fun. I keep insisting, emphasizing on
Fun
that.
and safety, G. We
Fun,
were very safe with the
safety,
guys.
and sense of humor.
Yes.
And a dry way of looking.
Yeah.
And also a lot of things do not matter in life.
Yes.
What matters is what you need to focus on, and what
Right.
doesn't matter, have fun.
Yeah.
People don't know that.
They don't know the
Everything
difference.
matters. Everything. I mean, she's worn grey today. Oh my God, it matters. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, a person going hungry matters.
Yeah.
A person wearing grey doesn't matter, right? So the perspective is not there.
Yeah.
All of that is not there.
They blow things out of proportion.
Totally
a
out
hell
of
a lot.
proportion.
Yeah.
And
a hell of a lot.
we saw a lot of thing happening because there was a lot of churning and changing over happening. There was also a lot of television was sort of
Booming,
blew up suddenly from a few
absolutely.
companies to channels.
Yeah.
And therefore there was a lot of influx of people who were coming in from varied backgrounds,
yeah.
print and all of that. And for a lot of us who started in television, we came from a certain background. We came and we were all together in a certain way, and we were all a certain kind.
Yeah.
And then suddenly when it bloomed, everybody came
everybody
in.
came in,
You know,
yeah.
and they took their time to adjust, and they brought with them their own
baggage,
ethos,
yeah, and
culture, baggage.
right.
So we also took our time to adjust to them,
Adjust to
and
them.
they took their time to adjust to us. So there was a lot of friction, if you remember,
Yes.
in our office those days.
Absolutely.
But half of them we sort of are in touch with right
Yes,
now.
we are. But there was this distinct, fortunately or unfortunately, division between a certain daily news kind of
Yeah,
attitude
yeah.
and a certain in-depth analysis and a weekly.
Also, Nivedha, don't forget, majority of us, most of us were women.
Yes.
And most of the people who came into daily thing were men, and they couldn't get over the fact these
That
women who
women-
look like this laugh and joke and dress up, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they were
Very
dressing
in
up
your
in a
face.
and
Yeah.
we were wearing all sorts of things. Remember
yes.
shots and all when we were
Yes,
editing,
yes.
and they dress up the way they do, and they can actually do political
Yes,
stories and do
yes.
it really well.
Yes.
And they couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
And by the way, that still exists.
Yeah.
The man woman divide still. I mean, yesterday we did a show. Sudha Murthy's husband, Narayan Murthy,
Yeah.
I'm saying that on
Yeah.
purpose, said that he refused to let her, be, because he at that point thought it was better that she didn't join, because then the other partners would have brought in their wives, and there would have been friction, even though she was the most qualified. But we were talking
There
about
is
the
this.
boardroom parity, and it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny because when television started, there were majority
More
was
women, because it was seen as a softer option to begin with, and then once like it came up a little bit, it seemed like, oh wow, this
Men can claim.
Yeah, men can claim.
And earlier it was, it was coming out of, it was a television industry, so they thought it was similar to acting,
Yes.
more feminine.
Yes.
Never mind, our
Yeah,
stories,
the
I mean,
ours,
news track
yeah.
stories are
Absolutely.
still in,
Yeah.
judgments are coming out based on that.
Based on that, yeah.
And the stories are still relevant. I mean, the whole Kashmir thing,
Yeah.
Babri Masjid.
Babri Masjid,
I mean,
Godhra, I mean,
shootout
yeah,
at Lokhandwala. I mean, you can go on and on.
Yeah.
And all of that was your story, the one that pig
Pig
heart
transplant. Yes,
one. I mean,
yeah.
it's just been going
Yeah.
on like forever.
Yeah, yeah.
But then these guys came in because it was glamorous, and they were, getting to sign autographs, and they
Autographs
became
and
these
visible.
visible. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
when the men came in,
Yeah.
and they think that women don't, therefore can't handle, which is amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Silly, because
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like you said, you've seen
Yeah,
the
the
whole
whole
thing.
thing. Yeah.
And I always feel that, when something starts at a certain level, you expect it to go up.
Yeah.
But it's gone down
gone
in
down.
lot many ways.
So, this whole idea of an empowered person, I won't even say woman, but the idea of empowerment and empowering the girl child, I think, largely begins at home in the kind of family environment
Yeah.
and the kind of encouragement you get
Yeah.
at home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And in your case, I know your dad has played like a huge role in developing that kind
Yeah.
of self-confidence.
Yeah.
But still, despite all the confidence you had, you still always listened to what he had to say. So, I mean, in the sense that you have shared with me that you almost nearly joined the cricket team
Yeah.
until he said no.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about that? And can you tell me, like, why and what was the thinking that you kind of took a back step?
Okay. So Dad and I had this very, lovely relation. I think most fathers and daughters bond. And my father was typical army officer, cigar smoking, old school. He had blue eyes. So my shape of the eye is his, but he had blue eyes. And I told him, you should have
should
ensured
have
I got
got
the blue
them.
eye
Uh-huh.
too, blue eyes too. But anyway, so he had this very dry British sense of humor, and he never ever gave us lectures. It was always one-liners. Oh, you did this, oh, you did that. I mean, it was always dry sense of humor. So I would come, and you just think of a easy breezy person, not thinking. And I would come and say something, and he would say something, and he would go away, and I would suddenly, it struck me later what he meant, So lot of things that he told us would come into play when certain situation happened. It was never, I never thought of them till I was put in I was in a similar situation, and that one-liner would come in because it was said in the dry sense of humor, and that stayed with me.
That stayed, yeah.
And that would come in when something similar was happening, and I would say, okay, and that's when you took a call. So that's exactly what happened. And I think somewhere down the line, a child knows that a parent inherently, I remember, for instance, let me give you an example. All parents fight. And I had, so my parents used to have always some bit of fights too. And I had another friend whose parents were also used to have a bit. And I remember she came one day and she was crying and she said, I know my parents are going to separate. And I said, why? She said, because they're fighting. I said, so do mine. She says, no. Anyways, all that finished. About 4 or 5 years later, her parents did separate. That's when I started thinking that I never felt that my parents, they're fighting, but they will separate. And they did.
There was no threat.
There was no threat. And so somewhere down the line, I think I very subconsciously knew or believed or trusted my parents. And at least dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when he said, I said, I have to go to Australia if I get selected. And he said, no, you have to finish your second year.
This is for the Indian cricket team.
National, first chance in my life. And he was like, no. I said, okay. There was not even, I didn't even miss a beat.
And why was it not a big deal for you? Because you trusted him. No, because today it would be a big deal. If a girl wanted to do something.
That is the difference. I said, it was also maybe our times, Niveta. It was like, we didn't have a grand plan. We didn't have a grand plan of what we wanted to do, in the sense that, we knew we were going to work.
Yeah.
I was very clear, there was no way in hell I'm going to get married till I didn't do something or start working and whatever. So we knew we were doing. What we were doing, we'll see. All our friends were in the same situation. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. If not this, I'll try something. It was never, he didn't ask me to give up playing. I didn't. He didn't ask me to not go for it. He would have sent me if it wasn't clashing with my exams. So I was like, okay. Today, like I said, I come back to this earlier. Each child has so much of options, so much of awareness because of school and everything, that they have become adults sooner rather than later. And they feel that they need to take charge. And so I don't think that they would mistrust their parents, but it's just that they feel that they know more because they're younger. And it's their...
more in tune with the reality
more in tune with what's happening, what their peers are doing, what is expected of them, what is the in thing, that is what is, I think, bringing it on rather than not trusting the parents. I think that's my take on that.
And coming back to, our time as journalists together, and, the fact that at that time, all of us got to do a whole lot of different things.
Yeah.
We were not really restricted to this is your beat and then this is all you can do.
No. Thank God.
So because of that, you in particular, you did a lot of sports.
Yeah.
You did politics,
Films.
but what you did very well is films and gangsters.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So tell us more about those days and the kind of connections that you developed there as a result, within the filmdom and in gangsterdom as well.
There are a lot of stories. So I loved army. I wanted to be, at one point in time, the first women fighter pilot, which was, happened ages ago. So I obviously missed that. Otherwise, I would have been that. So I always liked forces. Even today, that's my first choice. Love gangsters. I thought it was really
cool,
big thrill. And films, I was a late bloomer in the sense I hated seeing films. In the army, there are a lot of social parties and stuff like that. And every time my parents wanted to go for a party, they would turn around and say, okay, we're going to see a film. And I would say, okay, bye, because I refused to.
Yeah.
And then my parents, who both loved films, realized that, I have grown up and for 10 years old now, it's high time I know what film is and I need to see films. So that's when I started. But having said that, after that, to make me like films, because I initially hated them, they started giving me backstories of actors and this is this actor, trivia and stuff like that, and that just caught my interest. So I know a lot. So because you've grown up hearing so much, listening to trivia, so obviously when I joined and I had the option, I was like, yeah, I mean, you'd met people and you met them and you said, oh my God, my mother used to talk about Dilip Kumar. I'm meeting him. Or I liked Devanand and I liked Shami Kapoor and I met. So it was just lovely meeting all of these people. And so that's where the whole thing started. And then, of course, you started following, and then the gossip and the glamour. The glamour was never the thing. And also, at some point in time, you wanted to meet them to keep the magic alive. And I still am undecided in that if you like somebody, should you meet them? Because there were a couple who did not measure up.
Live up.
But the others did. And so it's just been a lovely experience. And with gangsters, there was a series of, again, the Bollywood gangsters and cricket came together. We were the first ones to break the story of the fact that match fixing happens.
Yeah.
I remember we went to interview Jagmohan Dalmia, and we were sitting in Taj, and we had these huge cameras. It was not a hidden camera thing. And we were asking him about how... why did we stop going to play in Sharjah? And we were going back after 2 years. Right. So he started giving examples. And then he said, and also another thing we realized that, and I'm quoting, where he says, another thing we realized that every time India or Pakistan were about to get out of the tournament, something would happen to ensure they met in finals. So the counter question came that, so are you talking about match fixing? And he says, yes, something like that. And that's when we said that. And guess what? And, everybody...
it blew up, yeah.
No. Every cricketer, every cricket writer or journalist at that time, and they were really big senior guys, they turned around and said, oh, come on, you women, you gossip. That was the label we were given. Lo and behold, this was in September. In Jan, the match fixing scandal broke. And we quoted Jagmohan Dalmia again, and we played that clip in our that story.
Yeah.
And he was the BCCI secretary then. And then suddenly you found all these journalists turning around saying, and oh yeah, there is match fixing. And I was like, you were laughing at me. And then it was so funny because I remember Tehelka had done a hidden cam, and they did all of that. And today, you find most of those big television print journalists have written books on match fixing.
Yes.
And I'm like, when we broke, you called us women and gossips. And, you said, oh, this was gossip. And now you're writing a book. I said, how about writing in the foreword, I thank Geeta, or I made fun of her, and that they wouldn't do it, of course.
Yeah.
So, so we did stories. So, Gangster was where the match fixing, because this was Sharjah, Dawood, and everybody was there. And they were also financing films. So the cricket was the connecting thread. It was films? From cricket we went to Underworld, and then Underworld was also at that point in time financing films and killing people. They were, so there was Dawood had broken off with Chota Rajan, and they had formed 2 gangs. So they were busy. Anybody who was part of one gang, so if Mukesh Duggal was part of Chota Rajan's gang, then Dawood's men would kill him. And if Taqiyuddin Wahid, who was the East-West airline owner, was part of Dawood, then he would be killed by Chota. So they were all these, and then Gulshan Kumar,
I was just going to say.
Yeah. So all of this was happening, and I remember, so that's how I started I got into that.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd gone to do a story in Bombay once, and there were no mobile phones, and our India Today office was in Nariman Point. And I was waiting there to, start fixing up and telling, because interviews, the film industry operates late night. Most of my interviews are done post 11 in the night, and earlier this side is all police commissioners and all of that. And I remember we were there, and I would call up Mr. Mahesh Bhatt and ask him if he could help me. And he did call up and say, look, Geeta's here. Would you like to talk to him? And he said, but you keep informing me and telling me what's happening, or telling me about who said what in which story. So that was that. And I was there when they came to arrest Mr. Ramesh Durrani. I remember it was 7 p.m. We went to his house. Mr. Bhatt had told him, can you speak to Geeta for 5 minutes? And he said, okay, fine. I walked into their flat. It was huge. There was no light on. It was raining. On the ground floor was where the parking is. And I walked in, all the lights were off. And suddenly I said, who's sitting where? And suddenly I saw silhouettes, and the whole family was sitting hugging each other because they were waiting for the police to come to arrest him.
Huh.
And then I spoke to him. He gave me a 3-minute bite, and suddenly the police barged in and they arrested him. It was straight out of a Hindi film,
yeah,
because
yeah.
this black silhouette. I still remember rain falling, the sound of it. It was just So there were a lot of things and that I was there when suddenly there's rumors started that Shah Rukh Khan has been shot. Somebody has shot him, and Mr. Bhatt and he became my literally secretary or my helping person, was calling up and saying, and saying, let me check up. And then, of course, thankfully, it was not true.
It was not true. But
Yeah.
gee, that was a time where I think even the journalists, had these very sort of close and personal connects with filmdom, with the stars, even the gangsters. I think you chatted a lot with Arun Gauli
Arun Gauli. Yeah, I spent the whole day with.
And kind of you related as people.
Yeah.
I remember even when the Gulshan Kumar thing happened, this whole thing, with Sabrina and all. I mean, she was like so involved, there were these personal sort of connections. There was no paparazzi concept as such.
No, but
then
you're mixing up two things here. Even today, if I go there, if I go to Bombay, of course, now there is this whole, the PR and there are 30 people who are surrounding the stars, so it'll be difficult to get. And mostly the stars have started now asking money too, I think, also for interview.
Right.
And also because there's so much of media that they only want to come in and talk to you when the film is about to release. I mean, in the sense that they feel, if you're not a Karan Johar, they're not going to talk to you. But having said that, where is the journalism in films happening
today?
Other than Anupama Chopra does her interviews. She does film reviews. So, and she's again with Chopra. But
exactly.
I would also be unfair if I just limit her to that, because she has always been with India Today and she's done that. So she's established herself. But
But even Rajiv Masan started in that time.
Yeah, but now he's not there, right?
Yeah,
and again, now he's gone ahead and joined Dharma Production. So I'm saying that there is no television journalism happening first. It's all paparazzi. They all go there, paps outside most of the time, the stars are calling them and saying, come and shoot me, I'm looking nice. And they don't need the hassle of asking questions and answering questions. So they just wear and they show and walk out. So they're there everywhere. So they're constantly, in social media times, they're constantly being seen. And they'll write whatever they feel like on their social media handles. So if they want to make a statement. So that's out. But I'm talking about the kind of stories that we did. And the fact that we were doing stories that were stories, if I did something
brought out the human being.
No, not just that. Also concept. Like I did a story I remember called Bad Is In. How we talked about how a Hindi film hero has evolved. He was first the
Sanjay Dutt?
Yeah, no, first he was the good guy. He was the Ram, and then became the anti-hero and angry young man, which was Amitabh Bachchan, and then became Khalnayak, and now he's become purely bad which was Shah Rukh Khan in Bazigar, where he kills an innocent person like Shilpa Shetty's character in the film. So we did that things bad. And I remember speaking to Sanjay Dutt, Javed Akhtar, because he had made Angry Young Man, and then I spoke to Shah Rukh Khan, and so we had imagine 3 people
types
all relevant to the story in the story. So when the story came out, it was not a story on Shah Rukh. It was not a story on Javed Akhtar. It was a story. It was a concept. What you write. So we did stories like that.
I remember particularly your being very caught up with Sanjay Dutt and his various arrests, and I remember you telling me that, he is just such a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about all that, that drama around Sanjay and his arrests, and, you were very emotionally involved, Ji.
I'll tell you why, because I used to really, really like Sunil Dutt.
Yeah.
And then when I started my journalism, he was a sports minister. I remember going to meet him, and he gave me a big hug because of the same Dutt, thing. And then it was really funny because I've never said this, but it's bizarre. My real mommy is Sanjay Dutt's first wife's Bua.
Okay.
Trish. So when I met Sunil Dutt, by this thing, and I didn't tell him that. And in fact, and then Sanjay Dutt was arrested. So for me, it was, I liked Sunil Dutt. He was Sunil Dutt's son. And then I liked Sanjay Dutt. And then I could not anymore like him
Yeah.
like that because he
Yeah,
was married
exactly.
like that into the family. So that was that. But we had so many arguments in our office because the guys who covered
Yes.
him kept saying one thing and I would defend him, saying
Defend
that
him.
you've got to understand where he's coming from and all of that. And then I met him and he was just, I mean, you understand even today why he's called Baba, even though he's
Yes.
60, whatever. Jackie Shroff, Salman, I mean, people just love them.
Yeah.
I haven't never come back from a visit to Bombay where I've gone to Bombay, hired a cab or a car, and have not had a driver tell me a Sanjay Dutt or a Jackie Shroff story. So all of that. So then when he was, I started obviously covering it, and then I went there, and I remember would go there. There were 6 Sundays I was flying in because we would get this thing from the lawyer saying that Sanjay is about to be released on Monday. So at 8 a.m. I had to be in front of Arthur Road Jail.
Yes.
So every Sunday I would fly in so that 8 a.m. I was in front of Arthur Road Jail.
I remember this
and non-stop 8 weeks I did. And every time I went there, because Ashtak
he
was
would
there, I had
recognize
to
you,
write,
yes,
I
yeah.
had to, generate stories because he
Stories,
was
yeah.
not being released.
Yeah.
And I remember once I sent a note to him and he wrote back saying, "Hi Geeta, how are you? I'm so happy you're standing outside." It was such and I did a story on that.
Yeah.
And then finally on the last, when he was released, I did not know at that point in time that India had so many media houses or media outlets, because there were like literally hundreds outside the Arthur Road Jail.
Yeah.
All foreign publication, correspondents, photographers, Doordarshan, everybody was outside. And we were all there, and suddenly this cameraman and I realized that we were, our camera wasn't going to get it.
Yeah.
So I looked at the cameraman and I said, "Hang on." So I asked the Doordarshan guy and he said, "Fine." So we climbed on the Doordarshan
Obi van.
van on the top. And he said, "Theek hai, So I'm standing there with my cameraman and we're shooting Sanjay Dutt. And Sanjay Dutt, what they did was they'd hired a bus. And when he came out, he sat in the bus, and the idea was he would go to first the temple, then he would go to Bala Sahib's house, and then he would come home. So he came out of the bus, and next to the driver, you have this thing, right? So he came out of that. He was standing and waving to everybody. So imagine Sanjay's tall, plus you're in a bus, and you're standing on a seat, and then you're out of the bus. And he's passing me by, and even now, if you see the shot, he's looking at me and he's saying, "Geeta, what are you doing?" And he said to the driver, "Take care of her. She's going to fall down." And I started laughing. I was telling the driver that he's just come out after so many years,
And
literally
he
1.5
wants,
years, and
to
he's
take
more
care of
bothered
me.
about me than about him. But he's
Yeah.
like, "You'll fall. Just be careful." And you can see that, gesture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I've always, had that with him. Jackie Shroff.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you're an 80-year-old, 90-year-old woman or a 10-year-old girl, 5-year, he will come to you, give you a compliment. Such a decent guy. I remember I'd gone to interview him, and he was talking and whatever. And then chivalrous guy that he is, he escorted me back to my car.
Yeah.
And we finished. He was shooting with Juhi Chawla, and he escorted, and we sat in the car, and he walked away. And then suddenly he turns. I see him walking back. So I open the door and I step out. He says, "Kya lag rahi hai, Bidu? I didn't tell you this." And I said, "Okay," and I was like, "Okay, fine." And with Jackie, it's like, and I laughed. I said, "Thank you so much." And the cameraman started laughing. Then he came all the way back and he
to
realized
say that
in this particular meeting,
context, he had not.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was been
So
good
that's
fun.
that's the thing, na Ji, that from those days of being journalists where our whole soul was involved in our work.
Yeah.
We've kind of moved to this very superficial way of dealing with work and life, and as long as everything is captured on the social media, it's fine. But that real connection with people, that seems to be missing even in the personal realms, where everyone is just checking out the options constantly, professionally, because you can't commit to anything at all. And everywhere else, I mean, where do
totally
people
true.
connect like this anymore?
I don't know, because again, I've seen in the younger lot, there are very few who have it. Actually, the passion is gone.
Yeah.
Passion's gone. Whether it's your passion, even I love my medium even now. I mean, I remember a friend was laughing and saying that you're back to reporting, but that's something you've always loved. I love it. I love meeting people. I love doing the interviews. I love talking. And it's never been about your face,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's never been about PTCs.
Yes.
We hardly
They
did.
hardly did.
You know, it was not considered, oh, we don't need
Piece to camera, yeah.
But now what has happened, also because of the formats and whatever, they tell you to sit down and do narration. So you're like, okay, fine, I'll do it. I mean, it's no big deal. But the thrill is the conversation.
Yes.
I mean, for me, even today, if I have to, like you, I would write the questions, but I would not look at it. Because if I feel the moment I look down at the question, I
then
break
you've lost that energy.
And I've lost the connection with the guy. And he also feels that, okay, she is, she's interviewing me.
Yeah.
Whereas I have formed a bond, and in my head, I have the pointers.
Yes.
So if you ask me, even if so many times I remember, even with I had interviewed Prime Minister Vajpayee there, and they said, please send your questions. And I was like, how do I send him the questions? A, as a journalist, I don't want to send him. But B, I don't write questions. I write pointers. So I wrote them. I wrote whatever. And I said, specifically, I'll be asking on these topics. And it'd be nice if you have this data or if you feel whatever. But specific questions, I don't know, because I don't know how I'll formulate them. And in what order. So it's very difficult for me to do that. But today, I mean, they're more about, can you take a photo of mine? Am I looking good? And, you'll have the actor sitting and the anchors doing more makeup.
More makeup than the actor.
And please, and after that, can you say something on the social media? Can we do? I mean, no. And that's the same for even when you're not working. It's one-on-one also. So it's not that. And they're constantly looking for options, right? I mean, you very rarely would find somebody who's in an organization for a very long period of time. I mean, if you know that there is no jobs and there's nothing new coming up, then you tend to stay. But otherwise, they're in and out. Now, so there's option of, social media companies or whatever else, whoever else, YouTube stuff and all that. So they're constantly jumping. There's no... And I keep looking. I said, what's your passion? Where's that passion for the medium?
But talking about your passion, I think your passion, apart from the medium of, that you're choosing, is also about who you are. You've been very definitive in terms of, what all you stand for, what you don't stand for, right? And that's kind of come across even in how you've chosen to live your life. You haven't gone down the
marriage,
shadi, bacha,
true,
wo wala, realm. But there must have been a lot of pressure on you, Ji. From extended family.
No, from my family. My
Really?
mother, my mom... I mean, at some point I stopped fighting with her because... and it's just not me, it's my younger sister too.
Yes.
Both of us are not
Both
married.
of us.
And my mother was very active socially, and she used to go have, play cards. She loves playing cards, rummy, and they would have that twice a week or thrice a week and all that. And even till today, you have neighbors who tell her that, oh, you have very pretty daughters, really look after you, they've kept the house so well. Why haven't they got married? And they said, we can't see any reason why they're not married, and she doesn't know what to say. And for some reason, that really gets to her. And I used to fight a lot earlier. And there was a point in time when once I remember Dad telling me, get married and then get divorced. Just be done with it. You don't have to be with that guy. Just get married and get divorced, because at least there'll be shanti in the house. I mean, he even said that to me once, I remember. And I looked at him and I said, no. And I come from this whole, I want full romance and I want, whatever. And I really can't put my finger into why I didn't and what it is.
So it never happened for you? You didn't ever fall in love?
I did, but I didn't feel the need. I have to get married. I don't know why. I genuinely don't know why. I mean, I was shooting a show with 2 cricketers in Bombay when Sachin Tendulkar was retiring, and we were all, group. So I was organizing something, and we had a producer, this, that, and the other, because it was a 5-cam shoot, and I had gone there. I was in charge. So these guys started laughing, and he was telling me, he says, you're so 360 self-contained. Where is the place for another person? And I looked at him and I was like, what? He said, have you thought of it? And that was the only time in my life ever. And after that, I mean, now every time I'm asked that question, and I'm like, they say, remember, if you need something, you have to make a place for it.
Place for it, yeah.
And that's the only time when somebody asked me, and I was like, did I ever make place for somebody to come into my life? And I realized that I certainly did not. Because going back to what you'd asked me earlier, I was this tomboy who became this feminine thing,
Yeah.
who drives
Yeah.
her own car, loves independence, this, that. So I'm
But
like
is one of
thinking,
the boys.
is one of the boys. And I'm like, did I make space?
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, I can't put my finger on what was the reason, but it doesn't bother me.
So looking at it from the lens of, evolution and becoming senior and having a life, like a retired life. So you and your sister think that that's what you'll do. You'll just be together. I mean, that's also a new concept of family, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Because you are doing that.
I have at least 4 to 5 friends, who are single. For whatever reasons, they're separated, single, chosen to be, and friends who are gays.
Yeah.
And now we've started having those conversations of, should we stay together? I have a friend who's making this fantastic big house in her hometown, the 4 Canal house. And I'm constantly, even last night, actually, I slept very late because I'm her architect.
Advising her.
Come interior decorator, come everything. So I'd actually gone to Chandigarh also to get some furniture with her, and now I'm picking up furnishing and whatever. I like doing all of that because that was going my second choice of profession, and I became what. And so one of it, and when she's got these 5-bedroom house and
Right.
all of that. So the
One
thing
is for you.
One is your suite. So this is yours. So which color do you want? It's become like that. This is do it up for you. So you're going to be here for 2 months. So we're talking like that. I don't know. Niveta, I think my generation, I've seen that with friends around me of, again, same age. We've meandered. And somehow God has been kind. I think we didn't harm anybody. We didn't mean ill of anybody. So I think God has been kind in that sense. We haven't done too badly.
No, you haven't done too badly.
I mean in the sense of as a life.
Absolutely.
I meant as in sense of God has been kind.
No, I think, in a sense, you have the opposite of आजकल हर बात का एक बहुत बतंगड़ बन जाता है, they're doing this, they're doing that, they've put a label to it very quickly. And then your life gets kind of defined by that label and you start performing according to that label. So you're the antithesis of that.
No. The only conscious thought of somebody like me who was absolutely living by the minute, literally for the first 30 years of our life.
Yeah.
The only thing I was conscious about was the moment you told me something, oh, you're this.
No.
No. I would not say no. I would do the opposite. I cannot. I abhor labels. If you tell me I'm a woman, I will hate you. I am a woman.
Yeah.
You tell me I'm a journalist, I hate you. You tell me I'm so in a way, I was so happy that we didn't have a beat. Because we were doing everything.
That's true.
I would have been suffocated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any label suffocates me. That's the only conscious thing I had in my head. That the moment you tell me, oh, you're this. Yeah. If you tell me you're a murderer, I will say, yes, I'm not a murderer. I don't want to be that. But those are 4 to 5 things I don't want to be. I can't cheat people. I can't murder. I can't, those 4 5 things that you have.
Absolutely.
Other than that, don't you dare label me. That's the only thing I have had. I've been very clear in my mind. And the moment you say, oh, she's a tomboy, I'll be very girly. The moment you say she's very girly, I'll...
Weird. So, I mean, there have been instances, I'm sure, in your life where either you have whipped yourself with why I did do that or why I did not do that.
Oh, yes, a lot. Yeah.
So what were those, like, if you had to say, what were your whips and chains?
Okay, purely because I want to know. I love this. I if you want to torture me, just say I have something interesting to tell you and then don't tell me. Because I have this thing of I want to know.
Yeah.
So because of that, I feel I do want to know what would happen if I were to get married. And I always believe that if you can afford, I love house full of children.
Yeah.
And the older you grow and their children, their friends. So I always, in my head was that if you could afford, you should have 3 to 4 kids. You know, I've seen my mother has 7 brothers and 1 sister, so there were 9 of them. And when we were growing up, we used to meet at my nani's place, and all her brothers would come in with their 2 kids, and we could have a blast. And our cousins are very close to each other, and really had a great time. So I firmly believe that if you can afford, have lots of kids, because it's really good fun. So I want to have like a
Dual life.
parallel life to see what would that be.
Yeah.
Maybe a choice like an idiot. I had written history, geography, and I struck geography and I wrote economics, and I hate it. Anything to do with business, I freeze right now. Hated that subject. I should have done geography.
Yeah.
I wanted to do be an underwater archaeologist. That
Wow.
was another So like I said, so there were
Those
times
are-
when I wrote it, and then this thing. And of course, the biggest I think I should have done was not spend so much, but then I love shopping. I mean, if I'm happy, I shop. If I'm sad, I shop.
Yeah.
If I've got nothing else to do, I shop.
Yeah. No, but you do create your own style and you wear it with great elan. So yeah.
Thanks.
So,
That's the only thing I feel happy, because I feel happy.
yeah.
So it's me personally.
Yeah.
You know, I till today I feel genuinely uncomfortable when somebody walks up and says you're looking nice. Like yesterday, also somebody
Yeah.
was saying something to me. I genuinely feel that because I'm not doing it for. I'm doing it for myself. I want to see the last look when I look at myself in the mirror.
You have to say yes.
I'm
this
feeling
is it.
happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am not brand conscious. I'm not money conscious. If I like something, I pick it up.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Thank you, G. It's been really wonderful speaking to you and
Couldn't have
chatting
done
and-
it without you, Deveta. You know, it's so comfortable talking to people who know you, been
So yeah.
part of your
back.
journey, and
Yeah.
makes it easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
much
no.
easier.
Thank you. Thank
Even though
you.
we're talking in front of so many,
So many people, yeah.
you know,
but
who are
yeah.
going to be seeing this, but
Yeah.
this is all you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.